Jim is a horrible liar. I don't know who Jim is. I don't know what he lying about. I'm assuming he either, you know what I'm saying, off his wife or girlfriend or something. That's usually how these always go, bro. Sit back, relax. We have another JCS type of video. Psychological video. Relax.
Seeing now is body cam footage recorded by Detective Jay Yergis as he performs a follow-up investigation alongside Detective Roman Ehrenstein. The house they are approaching belongs to a man who is the primary suspect in his wife's disappearance.
Me too?
Spell that? Yes, I did. Midwest Safety is just body cam stuff. And it'd be boring. It'd be kind of boring sometimes. Like, it'd just be 20 minutes of body cam, and it don't always be CC'd at the bottom. So I'd be like,
Thanks, Joe.
What's all my safety news? I'm tired of worrying.
Wait. My subs, wait. What sub you get? Well, Ken, if you send the videos in the cord right here, then yeah, I'll watch them. But we watched Midwest Safety like 40 videos. We watched 40 videos of that. We watched a lot of body cams.
Wish you guys would.
It's just we went from body cams to this because this shows body cams. The plot, it shows them what they get sentenced. It shows the investigation. It shows the interrogation room. It shows multiple suspects. It's like a First 48 documentary style. So, yeah, that same one. Oh,
find her somewhere, somehow. I wish you'd find her, deceased or alive. I don't care.
Real First 48. That got to be during like the weekends and stuff.
And all you're doing is waiting for me to say something a little bit different. Then you say, "Oh, he's lying to us." Now we got him going. If you guys think I did something, arrest me and haul me in.
Lock him up.
Because I didn't.
He did.
This is James Prokopovitz, a.k.a. Jim. As previously alluded to, Jim's wife Victoria went missing 3 years earlier. Over the years, Jim has become very resistant to law enforcement, becoming frustrated during almost every encounter.
Okay, so it was 3.5 years ago. You're asking me where I sat at a kitchen table? My God, man. Damn. And you're asking me what kind of... Do you pay attention to what your wife wears every time she gets dressed? But say God forbid.
I don't even know what I wore yesterday, and I put it on my body. What is it? Do y'all remember the shit y'all be wearing every day? Like, I'm gonna be honest. I would be terrible if something happened and you had to ask me some shit. I wouldn't know what. I'd be cooked. Realistic. I'd be cooked. Like, I know I wore a cutoff shirt. I don't know if I had on a hat, a beanie, or a do-rag yesterday. I know I had on black shorts, and that's about it.
If something would happen to your wife, would you be able to tell everybody what she had on?
That's it.
Or what she wore? Jesus Christ, you're asking me stuff 3.5 years ago. What roads did I go to? I'm sorry, Roman, I just don't remember.
Just one thing that I noticed is that you seem to be upset by our presence. Is it?
No, I'm not upset. It's just...
Were you nervous about us coming?
No, I wasn't nervous. Okay. I wasn't nervous. I got nothing to hide.
Instead of being helpful and concerned for his wife's well-being, Jim's behavior throughout this investigation is, put simply, very peculiar. And the suspicion surrounding him can all be summarized by this very question.
Jim, why are you so certain that she's not coming back?
I just had that gut feeling, Roman. I don't know.
April 26th, 2013 was the day that the Brown County Sheriff's Office...
What was y'all doing in 2013? I was in the gym before school hitting the fucking jerk, nigga. That was about it.
Office received a call from Jim to report his wife missing. The officers quickly arrived at the Prokopovitz residence to help search for any clues as to where Victoria might have gone. During this search, they discovered that Victoria had left all of her belongings behind.
2013, I think I was a junior.
Except for her medication.
Did she leave her purse?
Yeah, purse is here.
Does she have a driver's license?
Yeah, it's right.
Oh, right, okay. But no credit card, you said?
No.
So she wouldn't have jumped on a plane and went somewhere?
No credit card.
Does she have a job?
No, she doesn't work. She's on disability.
For what?
Depression and stuff. She's on psychiatrist care. She had surgery. She had a colostomy. She had the bag on for about 3.5 to 4 months. This operation.
How were you in 13? 26. No, nigga. I was like 15, 16. I was trying to.
Really threw her into a downfall.
To be specific, the downfall Jim is referring to led to a decline in Victoria's mental health and a history of misusing prescription drugs. Obviously, detectives were now more concerned as to why she would have taken her medication with her. According to Jim, he last saw Victoria in the kitchen at about 10 p.m. before going to bed. He then woke up at around 3:30 to 4 a.m., but Victoria was nowhere to be found.
You got up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
About 4 o'clock, 3:30, between 3:30 and 4.
And your wife was not around at that time?
Not at that time. I got up, started a pot of coffee, and sometimes she's down in the basement or whatever, and I hollered for her, and I thought maybe she fell asleep down there.
Sure.
And I went down, she wasn't there, went upstairs and looked. I looked all over through the house, couldn't find her.
After calling for her around the house, he got into his truck and continued to search.
First thing I did, I jumped in the truck. And I rode every road. I went up and down, because she does like to go for a walk.
When he had no luck finding Victoria, he carried on with his day as usual, clocking in and out of work without speaking to anybody.
Bro, this case has been following for 10 years.
About his wife's disappearance. In fact, Jim
I'm saying 3 years and but the video is a year old, so 10 years.
Waited about 9 hours before reporting Victoria missing at 1 p.m. This begged the question, why didn't Jim report Victoria's disappearance right away? As touched on earlier in this video, this is just the first of many of Jim's actions that clearly raised concerns about his possible involvement. That said, we must mention that Jim was not the only person to have seen Victoria on the night of her disappearance. There was also another man who also lived in the same household. This is Wesley Edges, Jim and Victoria's adult son. When detectives reached out to Wesley, he explained that he was out with friends on the night of the disappearance and that he did not return home until about 3 a.m.
That's a normal night out with the guys.
He did have one memory that he felt was important to tell them. He recalled an argument between his parents that took place when they returned home from a doctor's appointment earlier that day. This argument was not aggressive and was about a tablecloth from the dollar store, but he still wondered if this had anything to do with his mother's disappearance. Wes was cleared after he was able to provide a strong alibi and allowed officers to search his cell phone data, confirming his whereabouts that evening. That brings us right back to Jim. Jim claimed that he and Victoria were together in the kitchen.
I know if this nigga can't breathe at night. He got some little ass nostrils but a fat ass nose.
Before going to bed around 10 p.m. that night. So, police decided to search around
no lips
the property for clues about Victoria's whereabouts. They studied the soil surrounding the house, but were unable to locate any shoe or footprints, suggesting that Victoria did not leave her home by foot. On that same note, there were also no impressions in the soil that were indicative of Jim searching for his wife. The Pittsfield community decided to put together a search party led by one of Victoria's daughters, Marcia Loritz, joined by a team of deputies, Interpol, TSA, and the United States Marshals Service. Together with a K-9 unit at their disposal, they searched the area around Kanesh Road where the family property was located, as well as up and down state lines. Victoria was nowhere in sight.
Damn.
We have no answers. We don't know how she left. We don't know where she is. We don't know if she's alive or if she's not.
Since this search was unsuccessful, Victoria's family and friends performed several more over the next couple months. During that time, detectives conducted several interviews and learned that Jim's recent activity was suspicious as well. Her family stated that Jim refused to participate in any of the numerous searches for her and kept insisting that she was dead and never coming back. Jim had even begun dating another woman, Kathy Friday, a little over a month after Victoria's disappearance.
Damn.
As time passed, it was clear that things weren't adding up. The detectives were running into nothing but dead ends, and with the only new leads pointing in his direction, all eyes were on Jim. So, in July of 2013, just 3 months after Victoria went missing, the detectives asked Jim to take part in a formal interview.
Why are you so certain that she's not coming back?
I just had that gut feeling, Roman. I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. If she was to run off, she would take some things that are important. If she's in my line of work, I have to go on common sense. You guys have a farmhouse in a pretty rural area. No car, no bicycle, no public transportation that's out there, no cabs, and really no friends. She goes missing during a short period of time at night. What does that leave me with?
I had nothing to do with her disappearance. You know, if anything would have occurred in that house, there's no way it would have been put back together.
Your house was cluttered. That's absolutely true. A lot of the family wouldn't accept that she would walk down the road, especially her calling.
Well, I'm sorry. She did. I thought about calling.
Calling who?
The police. But I said, she has the right to do what she wants and disappear.
This was despite the fact that you thought it was somewhat of an emergency that she wasn't around?
Not an emergency. A little bit unusual. Guys, she'd been gone before for 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes, and she'd come home again. If you would have lived with this damn woman for 20-some years, you'd know what I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, Unc fed up with this shit. My bad, not Unc. This is Gramps. Gramps fed up with her shit. You know what could have also happened? She could have definitely stormed off and then got snatched up by somebody.
Jim reinforced that he believed Victoria wandered off on her own as a result of her poor mental health. But the cops weren't buying it, especially since Jim seemed unfazed about the entire situation. Even volunteers involved in the search party had mentioned to the police that Jim's behavior was unusual.
I'm talking about perfect strangers like the search parties. And what they say is that it strikes them as odd. They watch you mowing your lawn while these complete strangers to you and Vicky take their time out of their day to search for your wife.
I know, I understand that. I'm going to live my life the way I want to live my life. If people don't like it, they can move on. I'm not one to sit and dwell on a problem.
He not lying. As crazy as it sounds, he not lying.
How come you don't eat? How come you don't sleep?
I don't know why I don't sleep. I don't know.
How long has this been happening?
Since she's been gone.
Since it seemed like Jim was sticking to his story that Victoria mysteriously vanished in the middle of the night, detectives decided to confront him regarding his new relationship. But Jim told the police that Kathy was an old friend who he had recently reconnected with after not speaking for 30 years.
I never saw her a month ago. 6 weeks ago. Been seeing her for her every weekend. I swear that.
Do you go there to see her?
Yeah. If you guys are accusing me of something, I want to know right now.
Why are you getting upset about
it? Because you don't believe a damn word coming out of my mouth right now.
Nope.
That's it. I want an attorney. I'm done. You're accusing me of something now. No, that's it. I want a lawyer.
Doors open, shut.
I want a lawyer. I swear to God, I had nothing to do with my wife's disappearance.
I actually believe him a little bit.
After an extensive interview with Jim, detectives were positive that he had in fact killed his wife Victoria. But they still lacked one thing that is perhaps the most important of all: evidence. So Jim was free to go. Following this interview, Victoria's whereabouts remained uncertain for several years.
That's our big story at 10. A night of remembrance in honor of a Pittsfield woman. Her daughter is making these flyers.
The search for her continues.
We talked with a local woman whose mother has been missing for years.
It's mind-boggling because you cannot shut your brain off. There's constant no answers. You are constantly wondering, constantly searching, and you just live in this state of not knowing.
Years of searching.
Even when you know it's probably not even going to happen, that you're going to find her, you're still looking.
And years of hoping that one day a family waiting desperately to be reunited with their mother would find closure.
The sadness sets in, and then you start over the next day, and it's an everyday thing.
In 2016, 3 years after Victoria went missing, her family's suspicions of Jim continued to grow. They employed a retired homicide detective named Larry Warwick to conduct a private investigation. The audio you are about to hear is a recorded conversation between Larry and Jim.
I want you to pretend that I don't know anything about this, okay? You know what I mean?
All right.
Okay, so what do you think happened?
I don't know.
You remember having an argument with her in the truck on the way home?
No.
Ken, what are you talking
so,
about?
You know the police are looking at you.
Oh, I know they are.
Yeah.
I know they are.
Yeah. Did you do anything to Vicky?
No, I didn't. I did not do nothing to that woman, son of a bitch. I loved her.
Okay. I don't mean to upset you. But I got to ask the question.
I know. I know they think I did something to her. The only thing I could have done different was lock her up in a rubber room.
Mm-hmm. There's also been some talk in the police reports about this Kathy that you're seeing.
Yes.
Okay. You have a relationship with her now?
Yes, I do.
When did that start?
I knew her about 30 years ago.
Damn.
You ever date her? Did you have an intimate relationship with her prior to your marriage to
No.
Kathy?
No. We were just good friends.
Jim seemed to be inconsistent regarding his relationship with Kathy. He had originally told officers that he hadn't spoken with her in 30 years. However, during this call, he admits to Larry that the two stayed in touch, having phone calls every other year.
So after you married Vicky, you never had an intimate relationship with her?
No. I'd call her once every 2 years, 3 years.
I never saw her about 6 weeks ago.
It was clear that Jim was lying about this relationship, but that wasn't the only thing he lied about. Footage from a surveillance camera at a nearby Shell gas station revealed that Jim had not actually searched there as he had claimed. This led to a second search warrant being obtained for Jim's home and belongings. A deep dive into Jim's bank records showed that he and Victoria had some serious financial issues, including unpaid medical bills and a foreclosure. Jim had also removed Victoria from his family medical and dental insurance a few months before she disappeared, switching to individual coverage instead. The detectives met with Jim again, looking to re-question him regarding how he and Kathy
Why
were
you want to throw
connected.
beans at me?
Walked into the casino. I was walking around looking for a machine to play, and I thought I recognized her. Mm-hmm. And I walked up and I said, "You look familiar." And then at first she didn't recognize me, and then she did. When I
Been a long time, like 20 years or what?
almost 30 years.
30 years, yeah, of course.
Again, Jim withheld the information regarding his biannual phone calls with Kathy. Detectives also wanted Jim to retell the moments surrounding Victoria's disappearance. As they pushed for new information, tensions rose, and Jim's rollercoaster of emotions was on full display.
Your best recollection, where in the house was the last time you physically saw her? Right here in the kitchen when I walked into the bedroom. And that was at 8:39. About 8:30.
I want you to tell me where you were seated when you guys did. Do you remember? No. Okay.
It was at 3.5 years ago. You're asking me where I sat at a kitchen table, and you're asking me what kind. Do you pay attention to what your wife wears every time she gets dressed? If you do, you're a good man. But say, God forbid, something would happen to your wife. Would you be able to tell everybody what she had on or what she wore? If you guys think I did something, arrest me and haul me in, because I didn't.
I'm tired of worrying. I wish you guys would find her, deceased or alive. I don't care. And if she comes back alive, good. Then everybody will look foolish. And all you're doing is waiting for me to say something a little bit different. Then you say, "Oh, he's lying to us." Now we got him going.
The thing about it is, Grant's memory ain't that good, probably. So he might be, you know what I'm saying, remembering shit as he gets, you know?
Then asked to reenact his search efforts from the morning he discovered his wife missing, including his stop at the Shell gas station.
Do exactly what you did.
And I walked over here and I said, "Honey."
Okay.
She didn't answer.
Okay, then go.
Then I went here, went down in the basement.
Go ahead.
Thought she was down here. Turn the light on. Down the steps. Honey!
Okay.
I walked over here, I think it was. I don't remember. It's here first. Look. I walked over here, opened this door. Was it open? I looked in here. Here.
Okay.
Did something. Nothing here.
Okay, that's what happened.
Walked around in here a little bit. Didn't see her hollering all the time. That's when I jumped in the truck.
Open. I find her at the chest. Shut it up. I drove by here.
Okay.
Didn't go in. Didn't see if anybody was there. Didn't see anybody. There was no cars here. No nothing here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Went around. And I might have missed the road out here.
And that's perfectly understandable.
Jesus Christ, you're asking me stuff 3.5 years ago. What roads did I go to? I'm sorry, Roman. I just don't remember.
But it was just one thing that I noticed is that you seem to be upset by our presence. Is it?
No, I'm not upset. It's just.
Were you nervous about us coming?
No, I wasn't nervous.
Okay.
I wasn't
Overstimulated.
nervous. I got nothing to hide.
When we are here to try to help bring answers to you about the woman that you say you love.
I did and I do.
I believe that. We want to give you those answers.
This visit confirmed that Jim was purposefully misleading detectives regarding his trip to the gas station and his relationship with Kathy. So, the detectives decided to speak directly with Kathy, hoping that she would slip up and admit the two had remained in touch throughout Jim's marriage. But Kathy provided the same false story that Jim did, stating that the two had just bumped into each other at the casino. She also stated that she felt Jim was completely innocent.
And has he ever given you any indication that he had something to do with it?
I truly believe him because I did not have anything to do with it.
Of course she gonna believe him.
So what's the best guesstimate?
Is she somewhere else alive?
No.
How do we know that?
We can track people financially.
Okay.
Since Kathy also lied to the officers, police now had enough evidence to charge Jim and Kathy with perjury and obstruction of justice. However, Jim continued to maintain his and Kathy's innocence. On May 8, 2019, both Jim and Kathy were set to testify under oath at a preliminary hearing, held by the court to decide whether there was enough evidence to send the case to trial. During their testimonies, the couple lied on the stand before being confronted with the recordings that highlighted their conflicting stories. After realizing that they were caught, they both went silent and refused to provide any further testimony. Directly following this hearing, detectives brought Jim to the station for one more interrogation, as they now had a theory as to where Victoria's body was disposed. Jim worked for McKeefrey's, an excavation company contracted by the Georgia Pacific paper mill to transport sludge or ash to something known as a sludge pond. These ponds contain highly toxic waste capable of disintegrating most materials, including human bodies. Law enforcement believed that Jim, having access to the pond, might have disposed of Victoria's body there.
Jim, what would happen to a body if you put it in those sludge ponds where you worked?
I don't know. You'd probably never find it.
Do you think the police can prove you killed your wife if we don't have Vicky's body?
And I've heard people being convicted without finding the body, so I assume yes.
You're under arrest.
I know.
Kathy's been placed under arrest. Now, when she took the stand, she got the same admonishment that you did. We know that there are some things that weren't true. The meeting at the casino did not happen.
No, it did not.
Under the immense pressure of Kathy being caught in the crossfire, Jim finally began to crack.
How does the casino story, how does that come about? Be honest with me.
We just figured it'd be better than saying we met and shacked up right away the first night. And
essentially, you've been lying to the Roman and I for a long time. Today, you lied on the stand to the judge, the court, okay?
Is that accurate, Jim?
yeah, well, I lied about how we met. And
Did you know that lying to us was wrong and illegal?
Yeah, in a way. I mean,
didn't feel good.
No, but
you weren't at that station.
I swear, I went by the station and didn't see anybody or anything.
Well, you can see a certain amount of road with the cameras, though.
You swear to God, I was by there. By that station.
It didn't happen, Joe. That didn't happen. Because video doesn't lie, Jim. That's all I'm saying. Okay, Vicky's dead.
Yes.
She's not here.
She's not here. I don't know if she's dead. I don't.
She doesn't go poof.
I know
You were the last one to see her. You were the last one with her.
No.
You were the last one to hear her.
I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you right now.
You need to tell us what the heck happened so that we can clear her and get her.
Honest to God, Jay, she had nothing to do with it.
No.
I tell you right now because I don't want Kathy in trouble.
You don't want to be caught. You didn't want to be caught today on the stand.
And you lied.
All right.
You don't want to be caught now.
Okay, I'll admit, I killed her. I killed her. Kathy had nothing to do with it.
While this was a huge breakthrough for the detectives, Jim later recanted his confession and continued to profess his innocence. Following this interview, Jim and Kathy
that nigga got problems breathing at night. I know he do.
Were immediately charged with first-degree perjury, conspiracy to commit perjury, and obstruction. Jim was also charged with first-degree intentional homicide with a domestic abuse modifier.
The Brown County man now charged with first-degree intentional homicide in the death of his missing wife. James Prokopovich is also charged with perjury and resisting or obstructing an officer. His girlfriend, Kathy Friday, also charged with perjury and resisting or obstructing an officer. Victoria Prokopovich went missing on April 25th, 2013. James was arrested May 8th, 6 years after her disappearance. Katie Anderson tells us what court documents have revealed so far.
Both Prokopovich and his girlfriend Catherine Friday appeared in court. Today, Prokopovich via video conference from the Brown County Jail and Friday in person with her attorney. Prosecutors say James would have been the last one to see Victoria before she went missing. James indicated he searched for her for about an hour and a half before going to work that day. He gave no indication to his co-workers that
the nigga lost it. Okay.
He was worried his wife was missing. Prosecutors indicate sledge ponds by the Austin Straubel Airport are located on James's way to work, and he has access to them through his job. James maintains through the criminal complaint that he did not kill his wife, but admitted to knowing if a body were placed in the pits, it would not be recovered. A number of witnesses indicate James acted strange and distant throughout the duration of the investigation.
I'm gonna be honest. Why was this nigga still living in the same house 6 years later? You did this shit, you gotta go somewhere else, buddy.
Several people also say they were concerned about his relationship with Kathy Friday so soon after Victoria's disappearance. Prokopovich and Friday both told investigators they met randomly at a Wittenberg casino in June of 2013. But small details of their story changed several times over the years as investigators kept questioning them. Friday says she lied about when she met Prokopovich because she was embarrassed.
Kathy ultimately pled guilty to her charges in July of 2020. Later that year, in November, shortly before her sentencing, she died in her cell at the age of 68. According to reports, officers found a letter in her cell expressing her desire to end her sentence early. Jim appeared in court on February 15th, 2021. Prosecutors were seeking the maximum sentence, life in prison for the then 75-year-old.
Now to the homicide trial of James Prokopovich.
That nigga really ain't got life. Like, he already 75. That nigga got about 6 more years.
Which began today in a Green Bay courtroom.
Well, the prosecution's case is well underway in the Brown County Courthouse behind me. This morning, the jury arrived. That's 9 women, 6 men to hear the case. It started with opening statements, the all-important opening statements, with the prosecution laying out a very circumstantial case against James Prokopovich. Now, they say that marital discord, infidelity, abuse, and contradicting stories will point to him as the only one with the motive to end his wife's life back in 2013.
The prosecution asserted that Jim killed his wife and transported her body to the sludge pond located at his job site, in which he disposed of her body. They also claimed that Jim's desire to be with Kathy is what motivated him to murder Victoria.
As the investigation continues, you'll hear more about information that officers are gaining with respect to Jim and Vicky's relationship. You'll also hear evidence and testimony that within several weeks of Vicky's disappearance, defendants asking his employer about removing her from his insurance that he has through his employment, ultimately doing so in September of 2000.
This nigga's cooked.
You'll hear during the course of an interview with law enforcement, the defendant admitted to being involved in Vicky's disappearance. Quote, "Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll admit I killed her. I killed her. There, I killed her," before retracting that comment a few moments later. The truth in this case is in the lies. The truth, if you carefully consider the evidence in this case, the state believes you'll find the truth in this case is that the defendant killed Vicky and that he's guilty of all 4 charged offenses. Thank you.
Although there was a lack of physical evidence tying Jim to his wife's disappearance, the state hoped that the evidence presented was still convincing enough to help secure a conviction. The defense faced a tough challenge, so they leveraged both the defendant's age and Victoria's medical history to create as much doubt as possible.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what the state has not told you is Victoria Prokopovich has suffered from mental health issues since a teenager. She's been seeing a counselor since 1971. She was 18 years old. And she struggled with her mental health since that time. Since that time, she had been diagnosed with multiple personalities, where she had several different individuals. She was diagnosed with depression, anxiety. The state wants you to believe that my client, at 68 years old, perfectly executed his wife's murder to the point that nobody can find her. You're not going to hear how it happened. You're not going to know when it happened. You're not going to have proof of a body. A 68-year-old man got rid of his wife, a grown woman, so perfectly that the house wasn't disturbed. My client opened up his house, he opened up his life to let the police search. And yet we sit here today with no body and no evidence of how she disappeared.
The trial would go on to last 2 weeks, with the
that nigga cooking low key as the defense attorney. I believe this nigga all of a sudden. He ain't do this shit.
Prosecution focusing on Jim's behavior after Victoria
He
disappeared.
ain't do it.
They also highlighted the contradicting statements that he made to detectives during his interviews. Wesley was called to the stand, where he testified that Victoria and Jim argued over a tablecloth on the day that she vanished.
On that day, at some point in that afternoon, do you have dinner with your parents?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember at that time how everybody's interacting and what's happening?
I remember confrontation about Jim not wanting to go to the dollar store for, I believe it was a tablecloth.
On that date, now you're on your way home.
Yes.
Okay. And as you get out of your vehicle, what happens?
He was walking up to the house, and when I pulled in, first thing he said to me was, "Mom's gone."
What did he say?
I woke up and she's not here.
And then what happened?
He said he's been out looking for her and that he's going to go out and continue looking for her.
Was there a discussion, Wes, about calling authorities?
Yes. I asked him if he called the police. He said he was going to call.
On the day that she left, were there some cigarettes do you remember there were cigarettes left behind?
Yes.
Did your mom smoke?
A lot.
If you saw her leaving the house, she would most certainly have them?
Most definitely would have had them.
Okay.
What if she went to go buy a new pack?
Victoria's daughter Marcia also testified that Jim appeared more focused on moving forward with his life than on finding Victoria.
On that day, did you have
She like a fucking mental patient.
Opportunity to hear anything else Jim may have said that was concerning to you about your mother being missing?
Yeah, he was sitting in the kitchen at the table and he's like, I don't know what we're going to do with all of her shit. Look at all this stuff. This place is too big for two people. I know she didn't want an obituary. We're going to have to call up a U-Haul or something like that to take all this stuff to Goodwill. We didn't know where my mom was. So that was confusing. And the only thing I knew is in the pit of my stomach is I thought something's not.
But like, don't these, I'm assuming where he works at has cameras, right? Are you a victim? Yes.
Right. We still haven't found her, so why are we talking about getting rid of her things?
Sure. In the ensuing days and weeks, were there any other references made by Jim about saving money with your mother gone?
Yes, there was a day that we sat at the table and he was telling us how much money he was saving because the lights weren't on all the time and that he had dropped her off his medical insurance. And then that was when he also shared with us that he had a lady friend. He had met this lady friend and that wasn't like he just met her, but that he'd known her for years and that we would really like her, that she had 2 kids our age, and that had he known that she got divorced, he'd have never married my mom.
Detective Jay Yergis, the state's final witness, was asked by attorney Lumkool to detail his observations of Jim's behaviors during the investigation.
In the 6 years that you were investigating this case, would there sometimes be periods, months where you wouldn't necessarily have an update for the family?
That's correct. Sometimes it was intentional.
Okay. And would, in those instances, be situations where the family would then reach out to you to inquire as to the status of the investigation?
That's correct.
And you said those individuals would be Marcia, would be Stacy, would be Wesley and their families. At any point, was one of those individuals James Prokopovits?
Mr. Prokopovits never inquired about the status of the investigation.
You interviewed Mr. Prokopovits.
Well, that nigga was the main looking culprit type shit. You know what I'm saying?
Several times in your 6 years investigating the case?
Yes, I did.
And I think you said at one point it was 1 or 2 times a year. Is that right?
That's correct.
So there would be periods of time where you would go 6 months, maybe more, without talking to Mr. Prokopovits?
Correct.
And in those timeframes, he never once asked you for a status update on the investigation?
Never. Mr. Prokopovits was crude, vulgar, uncaring, disinterested, unattached, detached, uninquisitive, wanted no information, didn't want to cooperate.
I mean, he's top priority number 1 though, so
sick of answering questions.
Yeah, this is Jim.
What is normal with victim families in my experience.
Jim's defense did not call any witnesses, but they asserted that the prosecution had failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. During the closing arguments, the prosecution reminded the court that Jim wasn't facing charges due to physical evidence. He was there based on his actions alone. They highlighted several times that Jim shot himself in the foot by being confrontational, unhelpful, and unusually distant. They also highlighted his strange string of lies regarding Kathy, driving home that this new relationship was his motive to commit murder. Jim's defense locked the jury's focus on the fact that the prosecution's evidence is based on emotional conclusions, arguing that they used emotional tactics in the hope of swaying the jury towards a guilty verdict. They also reminded the court that Jim has a right to a presumption of innocence.
Don't let the state invoke your emotions when it comes to the law. Use your common sense. Use your own experiences. That's what jury instructions say. The judge read it to you. It says you can rely on your own common sense. Jim doesn't have to prove his innocence.
What?
He starts being innocent. At the end of the day, you're going to look through all the evidence, all 100 and some exhibits, and you're going to see that the state took 2 weeks to prove nothing. At the end of the day, you're going to find my client not guilty. Thank you.
After more than
I'm gonna be honest, bro. I would rule this nigga not guilty.
20 hours of jury deliberations, a verdict had been reached.
The record, I would say he's not guilty because they don't have a body. They don't have no evidence of him. Like, how did he kill her? Did he choke her out? This nigga's 68.
Reflect the verdict has been received by the court.
Like, let's be. Can a 68-year-old nigga choke somebody out?
Court.
I don't think so.
It is in proper form. It has been dated.
Okay.
And
this 60-year-old nigga, no.
And signed by the foreperson who identified themselves. In the state of Wisconsin versus James M. Prokopovits, file 19 CF 716, as to the offense of first-degree intentional homicide, as charged in count 1 of the second amended information, we, the jury, find the defendant, James M. Prokopovits, the verdict has been marked guilty. As to
I don't think he did it.
The offense of obstructing an officer, as charged in count 2 of the second amended information, we, the jury, find the
that nigga heart dropped. He finna start breathing all heavy and shit. He might die right now.
Defendant James M. Prokopovits has been marked guilty. As to the offense of conspiracy to commit perjury before court, as charged in count 3 of the second amended information, we, the jury, find the defendant, James M. Prokopovits, guilty.
James Prokopovits was found guilty on all charges, which included first-degree intentional homicide, perjury, conspiracy to commit perjury, and obstruction. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jim currently resides at the Green Bay Correctional Facility in Alouez, Wisconsin. Now that we're at the end of this video, you may be wondering why exactly we titled it, Jim is a Horrible Liar. Well, here is a quick summary. First, Jim told the officers that he searched for his wife in public locations. When officers checked the cameras at these locations, Jim was nowhere to be found, calling his credibility into question. Then, Jim tried to keep a new girlfriend secret from the public due to shame, which ultimately became his supposed motive to commit murder. Not only that, but he also conspired with his new girlfriend to do the same, which resulted in her facing charges as well. And to top it all off, in a heroic moment of self-perceived selflessness, Jim confessed to Victoria's murder, hoping to free his new girlfriend from possible charges.
Hey, I'm caught now. Okay, I'll admit, I killed her. I killed her. There, I killed her. Kathy had nothing to do with it.
In the end, Jim was convicted for the murder of his wife.
And the Green Bay hat, too.
With many viewers in the true crime community left wondering if he really did do it. So, if you ever find yourself accused of murder, whether you did it or not,
this nigga face looked terrible.
Don't be like Jim.